what would you feel will distinguish the most effective underwriting teams 5 years from now?
Obviously, the team which will be more flexible in terms of adapting and testing new systems, thinking beyond the box of only their daily task. That will create the edge for them, or that will differentiate. I would say that is the new underwriting we are looking towards too.
What will you tell them to prioritize beyond just, hey, do AI because you need to do AI?
There are two things. Firstly, yes, of course, you would definitely need a demo, and they must be doing that. They must be taking a demonstration of what the systems are doing. The other thing is that what is the reputation of that company? Mainly the tech team who is going to create, not the reputation of the CEO, I would say. The major reputation of the company, the team, whether, and if it's a single founder company, then what is the reputation of that particular founder, whether he or she is a domain expert or not. That is very important. That will make half of your life easy.
Welcome to Inside Delegated Authority. Today's guest is Niti Jain. Niti is the founder and CEO of MedML.ai, the first underwriting platform built by actuaries specifically for underwriters, designed to dramatically accelerate decision-making from days to seconds. Before launching MedML.ai, Niti played a key role in building actuarial and pricing functions at global insurance leaders, including United Health Group, AXA, among others. She developed GLM-based pricing models, corporate underwriting frameworks, and portfolio strategies across the US, Gulf, LATAM, and Asian markets. After nearly a decade inside the actuarial and data science engine of major insurers, she recognized a growing operational strength. Underwriters overwhelmed by submission volume, compressed deadlines, and increasingly complex data. MedML was born from that realization, serving insurers, MGAs, MGUs, reinsurers, and stop-loss carriers across life, health, specialty, and motor lines, to name a few. Helping them increase quote throughput while strengthening underwriting rigor, Niti brings a unique perspective that bridges actuarial science, AI-driven automation, and the real-world pressure facing delegated authority teams today. And I'm excited to explore what happens when technical pricing intelligence meets frontline underwriting execution. Niti, welcome to Inside Delegated Authority.
Thank you, Daniel. And thank you for a very elaborated, nice introduction. Thank you so much. I'm very, very humbled.
No, I'll do my best to actually represent the people that join us here in the program. But one of the questions that I always have is, underwriting has evolved significantly over the past decade. Where do you think the biggest bottlenecks are still today?
Mainly, it's about the volume and time. The thing is that in one day, the underwriters get a lot of quotations and they don't know which one will convert. So that is the question. So it's like the opportunity cost towards submitting a complicated schemes, and complications of a scheme may not only be on the lives, it can be also on the benefit structure. So how an underwriter chooses which quote, and then secondly, whether when they are quoting, whether that actually will convert into revenue or not. So, it's like that is the main thing for the company. So, conversion of the revenue. So, the challenge is that the volume, the complication towards submission, and then finally getting the result output. I mean, there are very few quotations that actually get converted into a proper policy and then finally into a revenue. The other challenge is also pricing it correctly. So that is also very difficult, because if they price incorrectly, then the loss ratios will obviously grow high, and then the ultimate burden comes on the claims adjudication. So these are the major challenges that I feel that are there, even after so much of innovation.
Nobody likes a high-loss ratio, I would say. We want to keep it that at minimum, but that comes with the responsibility of pricing. And you have seen pricing become more sophisticated, but how much do you believe that underwriting is delayed actually, let's say operationally, rather than actuarially, which is most of the pricing comes from?
I think, I'm not going to challenge the underwriters, and I'm not going to say that actuaries price better than the underwriters. It's not like that. So I think it's more or less, and underwriters are obviously quite skilled. They've been running the business since forever. It's mainly the challenge is not on the correct premium. Somewhere we believe that the premium corrections or the efficiency of the premium is still there. Somewhere I do believe that. And yes, the main challenge is getting the at the speed. So getting the information there at that speed which they want and error free. That is the main challenge. So that even the actuaries have set the benchmarks and they have set the pricing mechanisms, etc. The main challenge is that for the underwriters is to deal with so many quotations and then complicated quotations and then deliver it at the right time, meet the tenders. That is the main challenge. So I think the premium calculations is definitely a challenge for an actuary to set those benchmarks and how to decide so that the loss ratios are controlled. But for the underwriters, the journey is very different. Their day-to-day life is a struggle in the sense of it meeting the deadlines, making it accurate, etc. So those are the major things, I think.
No, thanks for sharing that. So we see a lot of pressure on, let's say, time. Being precise, the underwriters are very talented on pricing them, but they also rely heavily on spreadsheets. Why do you
Yes,
believe
they do.
they leverage a lot of spreadsheets, even though there's a lot of automation out there to leverage and use?
Yes, I think well, spreadsheets are not going anywhere. We are also used to spreadsheet. I mean, even I don't think so. I pick up a calculator even to do some calculations. I open a blank Excel. So this is like a habit. So Excels are not going anywhere. I think spreadsheets will always be there. But when we are talking about quotations as big as, let's say, which goes beyond an Excel, there are sometimes when it goes beyond the Excel as well. Text files, etc., and you cannot open that specifically in the portfolio space. Having the automated tool is always an edge. So there is no thing that replace the spreadsheet with the automated tool, with the innovation tool. It's more about, it's like just having an extra edge towards it. So, for example, you have an automated tool. What is the premium that is coming up? And now then the underwriter task comes. So he's not starting his work on a blank slate. So, for example, let's say we all use Chat GPT now. I'm not saying that humans have got replaced. We all use Chat GPT for what? For a starting point. So, okay, fine. We have certain things now. Let's say I'm even writing a description about myself. I will use Chat GPT and I will just write some keywords, and Chat GPT will frame a nice paragraph for me, and then I will start editing that. That saves time. That kind of like improves the efficiency of my introduction, which I may not have as a person thought. So it's like an additional helping hand. Should help the underwriters in making it more efficient, not starting it with the blank slate. And that is what they are also realizing. I think the shift is now moving towards just starting from the blank slate to the automated tools. Now, obviously, the automated tools also have to be accurate and they have to be very customizable for the underwriters for their ease. So, but yeah, the shift is definitely happening. I think now the underwriters are realizing that they cannot start with the blank station. It's like a helping hand.
No, that's great because we want to be able to review all the submissions that they get. Volume has become an issue, I would say, and they need the tools to do it. But let's say they're reluctant on not implementing tools. What have you seen breaks first when the volume starts to increase and you start to
They will lose out
not
on
reply?
business. Yeah, just completely lose out on the business. So, or they will not submit. So, or they will lose it to the competition. So, it's like me being the stubborn person and say, no, 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 I will not take the technology and I'll do my old school way, or I'll not switch to the new tech. I mean, so for example, the social media, so many people revoke towards social media, that no, social media is not good, it's addictive. But we are still there. We all have LinkedIn accounts, we all have one other account than LinkedIn. So you cannot just shut yourself in the room and then say that social media is bad. You need to adapt to the change. That is how the world is changing. And artificial intelligence is not changing insurance, it's also changing so many platforms. I think there is no industry which the artificial intelligence is not. So even in the movie business, I feel that there's a lot of change in the artificial intelligence, in the way the movies are being made now. But so what I'm trying to say is, if we as an as an industry experts in insurance and it's our duty to bring that change in the insurance industry. And if we feel that no, we will continue with the traditional way, you're not doing good to yourself, you're not doing going good to the society or any which ways, because this is innovation, this is advancement. If you will not do it, the other person will do it, you will get washed off, the other person will take the edge. So ultimately you will have to adapt to it whether you like it or not. It's just a must have now.
Yeah, it's starting to become table stakes right now. But
Yeah.
the other part is most of the businesses, I would say, at a starting point that it's email based. They get all the information, manual data intake through this channel. How do you feel this ability or this focus on higher risk? Everybody wants to write a higher premium is impacted by that, let's say, manual intake that they face on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, so there are few things like emails, spreadsheets. They're not going anywhere. It's more about habit. So, for example, even if let's say ChatGPT came, Google is there. It's about habit. We always open the Google first, and then later on that. So that is not going any which ways. Emails are obviously going to be there. These products get integrated into your main things. Like let's say, for example, whether you get an Excel, so you can drop these manual Excels into these products. And if let's say you are getting emails, then these products can read your emails and then make some summarization. So these products kind of like help you channelize from various sources of information, from the data, from the email, from your past quotations, which in the absence of these products, you are doing it through the traditional way, obviously. But nobody's snatching away your traditional ways. It will always be there with you. These are just adding you like extra perk towards it. Okay, fine. Let's say a broker mailed, and I have certain mails, and maybe the broker mailed 3 months back some quotation which you lost, which as an underwriter you lost. You did not get that quote. Now, in the next year, when the renewal is coming, you will again try for that quote. I mean, for that corporate. So it will help you. Okay, fine. In the past, you quoted this, was your history, and now you can start from there. It's not that you're just going crazy, going into the folders, etc. That's what the AI will do in the workflow automation. In the premium automation, it will then suggest you what will be the price based on what have been the changes in the portfolio previous, now, and even in the new case, what is the new portfolio looking like, the scheme looking like, and then accordingly it will price. So, like I said earlier, it's more of it's more of a starting point, that you're not starting from a blank page, and now you are starting it from something that you have, and also getting the information from all the other sources like emails, Excels, etc., and your database, etc.
No, that's a totally fair point. And people want to, I would say, every person wants to do good at their job and excel at what they do. And
And go back
sometimes,
home.
yeah, exactly. But sometimes there's inefficiencies in the process.
Yeah.
What have you seen based on your experience? Inefficiencies from when they receive the submission and actually getting to the decision ready. Let's say how much inefficiency have you seen?
Small things like, let's say, creating the PDF document. It's done manually. Editing it like a text edit or all of this, and every case by case. That is one thing. So it's like, it's redundant. Doing a copy, paste, it doesn't make sense. So even let's say cleaning the census, when they get the census file, making sure, even if they have a formula based automation, some form of automation, still then they are like cleaning that Excel and putting it in that format, that for example the date of birth should be DOB, like that. So those of things are like cleaning the date time format in which their Excel is accepting or whatever. So their formulas are so that their flow makes sense. That is one thing that AI can do it super easily, identifying the columns that it need irrespective of the format. Changing the language also, I have seen, whether the desired language that the client wants. Client wants in Spanish, sometimes in Arabic, depending upon client to client. And then those are the things that I have seen. The other type of inefficiencies I've seen, that repeating the same calculations. So I think, in my starting of my career, one of my boss told me that in terms of automation, he told me that if I'm repeating one thing twice, then actually I can automate it. I'm using some logics in my mind to take that decision. So I can automate it. Everything is maths. So I can because as a human, I'm also taking some decisions. Sometimes the underwriters may feel that, a system cannot understand what the underwriter decisions are, and they cannot be so efficient in that ways. It's about, we or humans are also in a way, some kind of a mechanical machine. I would say that, as we are doing some kind of a calculation, some kind of a rules in our mind, the AI system can also understand those rules and those decisions, and that is what we have. That is the reason we have agentic AI now, that is trying to understand the behavior of the underwriter, the decisions of the underwriter through the actions as we do it in the system. Basically, coming back to your questions, mainly the inefficiencies are on repeating one particular task more than once. So if you think that you're repeating one task more than once, which in the underwriter case, there are a lot of decisions that are doing again and again, that is automated. You can automate that. So, but then obviously the human touch is definitely needed at the end of it, because that is what the strategic decisions are. That is what I would say, beyond the knowledge of books, that we say that, because some people just have those knowledge, that because they are into the business for a really long time, they know that even if that number is coming up, what changes they have to make to win that corporate. So those are, like, I would say, the experts insights. So those will add on. So once we will remove those inefficiencies of repeatable tasks and add in the years of experience, I would say, the expert experience, the premium outputs and the final quote that will come to be very clean, the chances are that, the user underwriter will win the quote. That is what, and win more quotes. That's what the, the inefficiency removal process is, I would say.
Now, really kind of relates that. Let's say there's a lot of repetitive tasks that people you do. Where do you see those repetitive tasks generate more friction? Let's say a data extraction, submission intake, internal reviews, approvals, communication with brokers. Where have you seen that has the most friction?
Well, it's at every point. Mainly, majorly, it is on two major stuff. So first is the input. Let's say, when we are talking about the slip, extracting the information from the slip, we extract the same information. Let's say the name, the currency. Let's say we may extract the number of plans, the type of plans, the benefit structure. So those are the things that you skim through the slip. As a human, I will skim through the slip, the Word document, and try to understand how the scheme looks like. That is completely, I'm doing it for every case as an underwriter. The second is the census cleaning. I will do that for every case. It is extremely repeatable. I will be doing it for all the cases. And then the claims. Let's say I will try to identify whether there is a duplicate claims. If, let's say, the broker has given me some claims history, whether they are inflated or not. So those are some repeatable tasks that I will any which ways do. Those are like inputs. Then I'd say the middle portion is where the calculations are lying. In calculations, 90% of the times the calculations are quite similar. The methods are quite similar. For example, I may be using the chain ladder method, or I may be using the generalized linear models to price all my policies. Now, I may be having a rating factor at the back end that will be constant for all my underwriting quotations, etc. The only thing that I will change that will vary by case to case is these strategic decisions, the loadings, the edits that I will do. Those are certain things that the underwriter will do. That is the reason the system has to be very configurable at that point. When we are taking the calculation, so it has to be the stepwise exposed, and in the sense of it, that what the system is doing, you cannot just show a premium output. It has to show stepwise at every step what happened, what was, let's say, in the health space, what was the frequency and severity, what was the intensity, or the number of times the member visited, or in the life space, let's say, what was the actual chain ladders, reserves or accumulations, or all of those amounts that needs to be there. And then at the end, I would say the output, usually, actually, I am just creating the same terms and conditions at a repeatable scenarios. 90% of the time the same. Only few times I will edit the text. I will, as an underwriter, just add one note or something which the client may want, or which may be specific to that particular client, maybe a special client. That's it. So it's a very simple process. For the underwriter, the whole focus needs to be on that calculation, where they are to taking the strategic decisions. And I think that's what matters for the underwriters to focus on. So the rest is, I think, quite repeatable, and we can definitely automate it using AI.
So we see a scenario that we have a lot of repetitive tasks. We need people to trust the technology they're using. Then we also have a lot of customization, personalization, let's say adapting to how they underwrite. You have done this multiple times. Where do you see the implementations start to stall? It's because technology limitations, internal alignment, what have you seen makes technology projects don't deploy as expected?
Lack of communication. That's the thing, and basically lack of understanding. If these systems are very complicated, specifically when we're talking about the underwriting system, I think that a person from the industry can only understand it. That's my belief. I'm not saying that anybody who's coming from outside cannot be a founder. You can be a founder, but you will need a person in your team which is from the industry for sure. I mean, whether directly or indirectly, you will need some guidance, whether it's in your advisory board or whatever. You cannot develop a product without having that domain knowledge. So, the domain knowledge is very important. So, the gap is when the underwriters are, because they don't have time, they will, I will give you an Excel or something like that, then they will test one or two cases. They will lose the trust on those one or two cases only. So, at that time, it's your duty as a creator of these systems to understand it, that what they need actually, and then make sure that everything is working in space. So mainly the challenge is lack of understanding, when the two parties are not able to understand what the underwriter wants and what are the, because underwriters don't know coding, they can't understand the limitations of the coding. You as a founder should know the coding part of it, the technical part of it, and the second is the domain part of it. Once you have those things in place, then you can tell the underwriter this is possible or this is not possible, because that's what your job is. I mean, you have to do that very, very carefully. That's what the major challenge is, I think, in these type of systems. The domain knowledge is very important. I mean, it's something that is definitely there. So that's the reason that sometimes the the systems don't go as expected, because they are created by the, I would say, the artificial intelligence experts, but they're not created by the insurance experts. You need to have the combination of both. So as a founder, if you have both, that then you have an edge among the other founders. And if you don't have both, then just hire people, get those people. It's just going to cost you money. You have to get it. Otherwise, nobody will trust your product.
No, and trust, I would say, is the biggest thing in insurance. The other thing that I've started to see is there are a lot of systems that companies use, MGUs, reinsurers, brokers, and I don't know what you have seen, if they underestimate the complexity of integrating, let's say, new tools to their tech stack, or what's happening in this
Yeah, they
new
have very
tech.
high expectations. They don't understand that it is very complicated. They feel that everything should be done just like that. I mean, why is it taking so much of time? I always get that questions. So yes, they don't understand that. That is true, because that's not what their expertise are. Their expertise is understanding the domain. So they only know their domain. They don't know the tech part of it. They don't know how complicated it is to get even one feature up. Let's say, let's say even a small feature, let's say, just adding an enhancement of a button. For them, it's just a button. They will see that why this adding this button is taking, so much of time. But they don't understand the complexity behind it, because adding that feature is not just that particular feature. You have to test the system end to end, because it's the most complicated thing about having an underwriting system is everything is connected. So basically it's a very connected system. The inputs, the calculations, and the outputs, they're so well connected that even a small error will impact everything. So it will impact the premium, it will impact the final output. So these systems, if even if you add a small feature into it, you have to test it immensely. The testing is so critical, and every time you add a feature, every time you have to test it. So those testing is important, and then implementing it, the complexities of implementing is also very important. That those the underwriters don't understand, because they are not an artificial intelligence experts, and you cannot expect them to understand. So it is your duty to explain it to them that this is a complicated feature, so it will take time. But our experience, every feature is complicated. That's what I feel. Because let's say, for example, we are using a particular platform right now. Let's say, let's take up any platform which is not so technical. Let's say Canva, for example. We all use Canva, right? It's like a template, drag and drop, and you can create something from Canva. If let's say you added a button, or if you added a template, if that template is wrong, then the entire Canva will not go wrong. But with the underwriting system, it's not like that. If let's say you added a button and if that feature is not correct, the entire system will go wrong. And the more features you keep adding into the system, it start becoming very complicated to test. So this is it's not easy. It looks easy. It's like that, okay, this is just dropping some inputs and giving some calculations and then the premium output. It looks very easy. Oh, it's so easy. But that's the beauty of the founder, that he has or she has made it very easy. But at the back, it's crazy. I can rhyme right now. Easy to crazy.
No, yeah, that's totally true. Especially right now, we're facing a soft market. MGAs are, I would say, their edge. Most of the time is distribution, underwriting discipline. How do you feel speed fits that in the soft market and maintaining broker relationships as we've started to enter a cycle in a soft market?
Well, I mean, obviously, if a broker has requested something and I am giving them with a proper accuracy, within a clean format, consistently, and at speed, the relationship will obviously be good. So, because the broker will like me, the broker will love me. That okay, fine, whatever quotes I'm giving to this particular underwriter or this particular group, I am getting a conversion, because brokers are ultimately, obviously, they are also trying to earn their money. They are trying to earn that 15% or the 10% or whatever that share of broker is in terms of the revenue. They would not want to waste their time, because they also would want to that win it. So obviously, if they are the winning proportion for that particular uh, for that underwriter group is higher, the broker relationship will obviously improve. This is pretty obvious in that say. So having said that, the speed is definitely an edge. Second is consistency. So, if let's say I'm giving you a particular result in the same format, in the same consistent speed, consistent accuracy and efficiency, it becomes easy for the receiver, and it gives the a receiver very nice experience. It gives them an overall journey being an hassle free journey. Nobody likes to fight, nobody likes to argue, and nobody likes to you know have a very complicated journey towards the closure. So if you are giving that seamless experience to the broker or to the client, you obviously are creating the edge. It's more of that. So your success is more on the experience rather than the output. You're an easy person, like we say, right? That this person is easy to deal with. We get good outputs from these persons. So obviously the brokers will prefer you over the other underwriters. Then you'll get more opportunities in terms of quotations, and then there are chances that you will convert more, and create a better relationship with the
Yeah, no, and we started to see, let's say, speed, good relationships, experience, but automation will start to become table stake at some point. What would you feel will distinguish the most effective underwriting teams 5 years from now?
Okay. So obviously, the team which will be more flexible in terms of adapting and testing new systems, thinking beyond the box of only their daily task, that will create the edge for them, or that will differentiate. I would say that is the new underwriting we are looking towards to. So the new way of underwriting, I would say, that's what you want to ask, is mainly about understanding that it's not about only closing the deal, it's about how you close the deal. So how many systems we have tried, because by 5 years down the line there will be many competitors in the industry, and everybody, because we are talking about underwriting system, because everybody brings their own experts. Somebody will bring the market average or the market rates. Some will bring in a lot of tech in terms of, let's say, agentic AI, etc. That those things will have. So it's quite possible that the underwriters 5 years down the line may be using more than one AI system, and they may be having, like we say, that they may be having multiple screens open and taking the rates from multiple AI systems and then taking the decision, just to quote one thing. So their main focus will then shift from cleaning and all of those unnecessarily tasks to actually deciding what should be the price so that they win, which the underwriter's main job is, which is a good future, I think. More
Yeah,
technical future
a
for
bright
underwriting.
future, I would say.
Yeah.
And right
Most
now,
competitive, I would say.
Yeah, totally. It's becoming more and more competitive.
Yeah.
And on that edge, if you are advising an MGA right now that they were evaluating technology today, what will you tell them to prioritize beyond just, hey, do AI because you need to do AI?
Okay, so there are two things. Firstly, yes, of course, you would definitely need a demo, and they must be doing it that. They must be taking a demonstration of what the systems are doing. The other thing is that what is the reputation of that company? Mainly the tech team who is going to create, not the reputation of the CEO, I would say. The major reputation of the company, the team, whether and if it's a single founder company, then what is the reputation of that particular founder? Whether he or she is a domain expert or not. That is very important. That will make half of your life easy. Because he will understand the same language as you're speaking. You may probably not have to explain him or her. The other thing I would say is that they should also be. This is what I feel, that a lot of times MGAs think that okay, this is a ready-made system. I don't want to create anything, and I just plug that system into my business. It will not happen so seamlessly. So even if you're seeing a little bit closer system than what you need, be flexible enough to customize it if you're getting that domain expert. So if let's say you have two systems, one is exactly what you need and the other one is a little bit of some configurations here and there, but the team or the domain is knowledge of that particular team is very strong. Choose that rather than choosing the particular product which is just giving you exactly what it wants, because you want that right now, and in future it will change. You may want to add certain things, you may want to evolve few things, features, etc. Explaining to that company which doesn't have domain knowledge will be very tough. Your journey will be more tougher, and you will be able to achieve things faster with the person who will have those domain knowledge. So those are that is the thing. I mean, don't think just short term, think long term, because once you get that AI product into your company, it's not going anywhere, because you will not retrain your underwriters. You will not do that journey again. Neither the underwriters would want to do that journey again. So whatever you're choosing, choose wisely, and just make sure that person has the domain knowledge. It's very important.
Thank you very much, Nidhi. I really enjoyed our conversation. This
Thank
was
you.
Inside Delegated Authority with Nidhi Jain. This is Daniel, your host. Have a good one. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.